Hello, everyone, and welcome to Breakout Room 5. My name is Naomi Cherney, and I'm an implementation manager at the Hub, and I will be facilitating this breakout room for today. As you will have noticed, I just enabled recording, so we'll just record the presentations and the Q&A will not be recorded, just for everyone's knowledge. So today, we have representatives. We have Amy Craig Neal and Dr. Minhas from our Kids Health Project at St. Michael's Hospital, Unity Health Toronto. And we also have Dr. Patricia Lingley-Potty from the Strongest Families Institute, Steps to Children and Adolescents Learning Mental Wellness. So we have a warm welcome to our presenters today, and we're so excited to hear the content. Amy and Dr. Minhas, are you prepared to share slides? Okay, fantastic. So I'll just give a brief introduction. It's basically just the description from the agenda. Our Kids Health is a free, culturally congruent parent support resource delivered through social media and co-designed using community-based participatory methods that is tailored to the needs of 10 different culturally specific groups. The platform aims to increase overall wellness and mental health for parents and children. It aims to positively impact changes in health literacy and consequently impact child development and behavior in BIPOC families in Canada and beyond. So I will turn it over to the team from our Kids Health.
Great, thanks so much, Naomi. Here, I'm just going to see if I can share my screen. There we go. Perfect, is that showing up okay? Okay, great. So, thanks so much for the invitation to be able to speak today. So again, my name is Ripudaman Singh Minhas. I'm a developmental pediatrician at St. Michael's Hospital at Unity Health Toronto at the University of Toronto. I'm the lead NPI for this project, and with me is my colleague Amy Craig Neal, who's the manager of research programs who leads our team at the Our Kids Health Network. So today, we're going to be talking about some of our team's work over the past year in creating a social media health literacy and mental health promotion program titled Our Kids Health. So as we were hearing from our presenters yesterday, the concept of mental health really, I think should be approached as a very broad one. And our project looks at a multi-generational focus on the mental health of children and youth and their caregivers in providing mental health promotion information to support parental mental health through content that's adapted to increase parental efficacy and empowerment using culturally congruent, anti-racist, and a community-led lens. And in terms of our own acknowledgement of the land where we work, I wish to acknowledge the land on which we're meeting, albeit virtually today. So for thousands of years, this has been the traditional land of thriving and rich communities, including the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. We also acknowledge that this comes with a responsibility for each of us and our institutions to commit to learning about the exploitation, enslavement, colonization, genocide, and marginalization of Indigenous communities and how it has contributed to the systems that many of us participate in and continue to benefit from daily, even today. We also understand that the practice of land acknowledgement is only a very small step in the long journey towards true and meaningful reconciliation, which will really require dismantling and rebuilding these systems together in respectful harmony. I'm joining you today from Treaty 19 territory in my home in Peel region, just outside Toronto, and I'll pause for each of us to think about the space where you are today, its history, its legacy, and your ties with that land. We also wish to acknowledge we don't have any financial conflicts of interest to declare. This work has been funded by the MHPIF, as we heard earlier, and builds on earlier contributions from the St. Michael's Department of Pediatrics and the McLean Family Foundation as well. We also think it's important for us each to reflect on how our work is impacted and informed by our own personal experiences and different axes of our identities as well. And so in terms of the setting for this work, there are really some important points we wanted to use in laying the groundwork for this. So one is that we understand that there are significant differences in how diverse communities participate in the health system, in the mental health system, both in how they access care and also information. We also know, particularly over the pandemic, we've seen that online health misinformation is rampant. It lives in every language and platform, but evidence-based information and access to it does not necessarily do the same. And we know that many BIPOC communities have mistrust of healthcare institutions relating to painful histories, including, as I mentioned, colonization, exploitation, enslavement, experimentation, and ongoing marginalization as well. And in terms of parents and caregivers, really the vast majority of online child health information to support them for families, really is Eurocentric in its approach and is available in English and French with some translated websites, but really does still require a high level of literacy. So during the early stages of the pandemic, we saw that families were really isolated, both from their support networks and also their healthcare providers. They were spending even more time parenting than before, at a time when we were seeing Canada's BIPOC communities were really confronting vast uncertainty and undue burdens of COVID as well, both infectious, but also social and economic. And in turn, there was an impact on the mental health of caregivers and their children and dynamics at home. So for many already marginalized families, traditional parenting communities and support networks became fragmented quite quickly. Families were isolated, unable to share lessons and learn lessons and share knowledge with aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, parents of their children's classmates on the playground, or even neighbors. They could not easily seek advice from healthcare providers, and developmental screening visits and drop-in centers were also closed. So we saw that families began turning to social media to learn and recreate parenting communities and networks to share and to gain knowledge. In 2022, we've seen globally that adults have spent an average of 2.5 hours a day on social media. However, we know that most online resources to support parents do not reflect their cultural identities, their values and priorities. And in a recent systematic scoping review, we found barely any social media interventions that focused on the unique needs of racialized and marginalized communities and their parenting or child health literacy needs. Or in other words, the virtual space of mommy bloggers and evidence-based parenting resources continues to be exclusive of culturally diverse populations' needs, perspectives, profiles, and even their faces. We published this editorial a few months ago discussing the need to create more inclusive resources, because we know that the digital divide goes beyond simple access to data and devices, but also equitable access to content and health information that's relevant, translated, and adapted to support families in making the right decisions for the health and well-being of their families and children. So our team worked to create an online parenting support resource, which we first piloted for the Punjabi diaspora, called Punjabi Kids Health. This came from watching the unearthing of really grave disparities in how racialized communities participate in our healthcare systems, as seen by the COVID-19 pandemic's impacts on my home community in Brampton, Ontario, Canada. So when we created Punjabi Kids Health, again, just over 2 years ago, we started off with Facebook and quickly grew to Instagram and TikTok, with now more than 125,000 members across platforms globally. The content is shared in both English and Punjabi. It's meant to be inclusive of individuals of various faith backgrounds as well. And it's designed and adapted for individuals and families that identify as Punjabi. So that may be of Indian or Pakistani origin. And that means about 1 million people who identify with this in Canada, and also practitioners who work with them. That may mean individuals who are in India or Pakistan at this time, or newcomers and immigrants here, or those who have been born abroad, or sometimes called second gen as well. We try to use an approach that has knowledge translation and cultural adaptation built into it. I'm going to share just a quick clip, so pardon me as I change the screen that I'm sharing. Hopefully this will work. Hopefully you'll be able to hear. Communities who are marginalized benefit from having healthcare and health information given to them by people who have some shared and lived experience. This leads to improved trust, and with that, then improved health outcomes for individuals and for communities. Hi, I'm Dr. Ripu Daman Singh Minhas, and I'm a developmental pediatrician at St. Michael's Hospital, Unity Health Toronto, and I'm the medical lead and founder of Punjabi Kids Health, which is a digital health literacy program for families that are part of the Punjabi diaspora. During the pandemic, it became really clear, especially in my home community in Peel region, that different cultural linguistic communities were participating in the healthcare system and being marginalized in different ways. And so we really wanted to create evidence-based health resources that were accessible for families. And as a pediatrician, it made sense to look at children's health and parenting. And we know that, especially for young parents, they are accessing health information online. We wanted something that was available to them, and something that was accessible both from a linguistic standpoint, but also culturally adapted as well. We've got more than 50,000 online community members or followers. We get lots of great questions which help us tailor our content. So that's really something we're trying to do, is make sure it's participatory. So we get questions that help us guide, where should we go with the project? What are topics we should be covering? What are myths we should be trying to debunk?
The COVID-19 vaccine helps our body fight the germs.
Families have ongoing questions around the safety of the vaccine for children, especially around some of the side effects we had been hearing about early on, and then related to that also the long-term impacts as well. So we're trying to share evidence-based information and helping families have the information need to be able to make the right decision for themselves. It's been a huge success over the past year, and it makes us wonder about what this would look like if we were to scale this out to other cultural linguistic communities as well. So we're looking at creating sibling chapters. So we'll be rolling out Tamil Kids Health in the months ahead, and we're looking for funding to be able to do similar sorts of programs for the Black African Caribbean community, the Latinx community, Arabic, and perhaps Cantonese and Mandarin as well. So that was a bit of a spoiler alert, because this was done a little bit more than a year ago. I'm just going to go back to my slides. I can find them. Hopefully that was audible for you. So that was about a year ago when we had done that interview, and I feel like that video, the guy in that video speaks and describes it much better than I can. But we'll talk a little bit in a couple of minutes about our scale up to those other cultural chapters with the support of the MHPIF. And the beauty of social media really is that it is social, where they're widespread, they're quick, and we can be quite responsive to the evolving needs and priorities of the communities that we're working with. So we're continuously gathering data and engaging with online community members. We don't like to call them followers, as is typically done in social media, because really it's our team that follows their needs and their priorities. So we've covered a range of topics, including COVID, virtual school, autism, the mental health impacts of COVID and isolation. And then we've also had live expert panels on Mother's Day and maternal mental health, and Father's Day and the evolving role of male caregivers, and cultural stereotypes on masculinity as well. And we recently did, last fall, actually, a back to school series as well. And some of the initial feedback has been really helpful in guiding us in understanding what we're doing right or wrong or not enough of. Folks seem to be appreciating evidence-based information that is bilingual, feeling like they can connect with other parents or practitioners despite the isolation of the pandemic, and having content that could be shared with grandparents who may have different language proficiencies as well. Again, feeling that sense of connection in seeing getting information from folks who look like them and identify as part of a similar community. Our initial engagement methods include online engagement using polls, live Q&A, direct messages on our social media accounts, also in consultations with community agencies such as children's aid societies, school boards, and culture-specific or diagnosis-specific agencies to help guide us in our content, and then also focus groups with families who are members of our online community as well. And the initial feedback we received was really interesting in terms of topics that were of interest to families, and also how they would like content delivered to them as well, including the idea of having streams of content which might be different from male or female identifying caregivers, for grandparents who may often be involved in caregiving and decisions as well, and then also for teachers or early childhood educators and other professionals who may be working with these families as well. So we were really surprised with the vast reach of this project and the feedback we were getting from our pilot, from families and agencies, and the profound impact it was really having in what we're hearing on parental mental health and parent-child dynamics, and feelings of empowerment that families were getting in getting content that was in keeping with their priorities and their needs. So building on the success of this initial community-led chapter, we connected with KDE Hub and the MHPIF and started working on opportunities to scale up this model and adapt it to other high priority cultural linguistic communities in Canada. So I'll hand it over to my colleague Amy to take it from there.
Yeah, so as Reepu mentioned, we're building off kind of what was started with Punjabi Kids Health, and we've actually expanded now to include 10 cultural linguistic chapters. So Tamil Kids Health started in February 2021. And then in November of this last year, we added 8 additional channels, which includes Ukrainian Kids Health, Cantonese Kids Health, Hispanic Kids Health, Mandarin Kids Health, Filipino Kids Health, Arabic Kids Health, Inuit Kids Health, and Black Kids Health. So you can see the logos for all the different channels up at the top. And we've developed a curriculum based off that pilot chapter that's been translated and adapted for each cultural linguistic chapter. And we have providers and advisors from each community who are helping to guide the content, and are also the ones who are presenting the content online. Go to the next slide. So there's kind of 2 parts to our project. So the intervention is actually, the posts that we're making on social media. So in terms of the process, there's the pre-content creation. So that was developing the curriculum that's being used across all the channels. Then the content creation, which is creating and editing the videos, making infographics. Content rollout is actually posting the videos on social media. So we're using Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter right now. And then some of the chapters have kind of additional platforms that they're using that are more widely used within their communities. And then kind of throughout all of the process, there's this community engagement piece to ensure, again, that all the information that we're providing is relevant for the community. The other part is an evaluation of the intervention. So we're doing surveys on parental empowerment, stress, and competence. And these surveys happen at baseline, at 6 months, and at 12 months. So when we launched our 8 new channels in November, we were just kind of posting some introductory content. So bios from the team, some introductory videos, in the hopes of accumulating some members. With that kind of small following that we had at the beginning, we recruited for our baseline measures. And once we had reached our sample size, which was 100 across the 8 channels, then we actually launched our medical content, which happened in January of this year. So then we'll follow up with those same people at 6 months and at 12 months to see if there's a change in any of those factors. We're also doing qualitative analysis or qualitative study. So that will happen also at 12 months, just to kind of understand the experience of the online community members following and interacting with the channel. Again, this just highlights the importance of the community engagement. So this is kind of the structure of what we do. So each week there's a different topic. So for example, one week could be nutrition, the next could be child and youth mental health. And each week we post 2 to 3 reels or TikTok style videos, so short kind of 30-second videos, as well as 2 to 3 infographics. And so these are presented both in English and then in the other target language for each community. We also post about hot topics, so things that are kind of come up in the media. So for example, we recently did some posts about talking about distressing events with your children. And then we also post about special days. So for example, the International Day of the Girl Child, we would have an infographic and potentially a video about that. And then every month we do a week that's a You Asked Us week. So if we get questions, comments from the online community members, we can respond with information, again, to just make sure that it's very relevant for them, as well as doing Instagram lives that are expert Q&As. And we're kind of focused on regulated health and educational professionals. So those are the people who are actually in the videos, presenting the information, and that's just a photo of some of the members of our team. So in terms of our scale up to date, so for our 8 new channels that launched in November, we have over 50,000 online community members. And for our 10 channels, we have over 200,000. And so this is just a graph showing the kind of growth that we've seen. So again, starting in November, and then you can see kind of mid-January, that's when we started posting the medical content, and we've had a kind of increased growth from that time. So these are just some kind of sample posts. So mental health, language development, vaccines, nutrition. And then we also have some sample videos that we'll play for you just to get a sense of the kinds of things that we're posting.
Sure, bear with me as I just switch screens one more time. So hopefully this works and sound is audible too. I'll just refresh this so we can start from the beginning. This is from our Arabic channel, the English content from the Arabic channel. Oh, sorry. Sound. And then lastly, this was from our Hispanic channel. Just for the beginning.
La lactancia materna tiene muchísimos beneficios. Tienen que saber que la leche materna tiene la cantidad de energía y la cantidad de nutrientes precisos que necesitan nuestros bebés desde el momento que nacen. La leche materna también tiene una serie de anticuerpos que van a ayudar a nuestros bebés a estar protegidos de varias enfermedades y también a combatir algunas de estas. La leche materna también resulta más ligera para el estómago de nuestros bebés y es menos probable que los niños tengan gases, tengan diarreas e incluso tengan estreñimiento. Y la lactancia materna es difícil, sobre todo al inicio, cuando estamos estableciéndola. Y si es que has decidido que esta es la opción correcta para ti, asegúrate de tener una red de apoyo, amigos, familiares o profesionales que tengan esta experiencia y puedan apoyarte cuando lo necesites.
So we try and do a kind of mix of, videos when providers are speaking, but also videos when they're just pointing, and we try to include captions just to make sure that it's accessible for everybody. So the aim of our project is to improve overall well-being in parents while addressing key determinants of health, such as, social exclusion, lack of resources, that sort of thing. So we know that these BIPOC communities already face many of these problems, and they've been exacerbated over the last few years by the COVID pandemic. So we aim to address these determinants of mental health at 3 levels. So at an individual level, we're providing guidance and information for individuals and families. At a community level, we're creating an online community which increases belonging and social inclusion. And then at a societal level, we're creating a sense of cultural identity within the online community that's being led by other members of the community. And we're also sharing our resources with healthcare providers, which enables them to provide inclusive and equitable care.
Do you want to switch to presenter view?
Sorry, is that?
Or sorry, Dr. Minhas.
Here, let me see.
Totally fine if we only have a few slides left, so it's totally fine. I just thought I'd let you know.
I had a feeling something was, there we go.
Yeah.
Better? Okay,
yeah.
Thank you for that.
So again, these are just some of the comments that we've received since we've launched our new channels. People are overall very supportive, and it's nice to see that the information that we're providing is relevant for each of the communities and for the individuals who are following our channels. And then in terms of just some other project activities that we've been doing to date, so we did a photo shoot to get pictures of families from diverse communities. So we've been using them throughout the presentation. We have them also, we use them on our social media channels, on our website. We've developed the curriculum. We've hired diverse teams. So we have one community and research coordinator leading each of the channels who is part of that community. And we've also been recruiting health and educational professionals who are part of the community who can deliver the content. We've developed a website. We've also recruited artists who are representative of the different communities to create logos and illustrations that we can use on the infographic. So the bottom image here is just a kind of, it was from our Inuit Kids Health artist, and it was the inspiration around the logo. And then finally, each of the cultural linguistics chapters has been assembling a community advisory board who can help guide the content on the needs and the priorities of their communities.
So as we wrap up, some of the lessons we've learned along the way in connecting with diverse communities is that representation really matters. So in our platform, that means representation on screen and also in terms of curriculum development. So as Amy was mentioning, we have our core curriculum, and we've also been trying to create content that responds to the experiences of each community, as things happen. So with the earthquakes recently in Turkey and Syria, we did have content that we created specifically for families who may be experiencing distress relating to that and describing some of these experiences to their children as well. So the representation piece is really important, really going where the community is. So thinking about the platforms and spaces where they are. So they may not necessarily be TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. And so we've started looking at some of the other platforms and spaces where families are connecting with one another and accessing information. We find that short videos tend to do better rather than longer form content, sharing actionable points rather than theory, particularly around mental health and behavior. Myth busting, but doing it in a respectful way that honors cultural perspectives. Also keeping in mind multi-generational contexts when we're thinking about how decisions are made about children's health and behavior and their mental health. Knowing our subpopulations, understanding that diaspora communities may differ based on whether, you know, an individual may be a newcomer, they may have previously resettled, or they may have been living in Canada for multiple generations of their family, but may still identify as a part of a specific cultural linguistic community because of their region of origin or of their ancestry. And then also considering those with limited literacy or sensory impairments. So our spoken videos usually have captions with them as well. And we aim for a maximum grade 6 level of English in the content that we're sharing in our infographics and in our videos as well. So we'll pause there. Thank you for your time and your interest. If you'd like to follow along with our journey, you know, in good social media measure, you can follow, like, share, comment. Our QR codes are there for if you'd like to follow our channels. Our Twitter handle is there as well, both mine, but then also for the platform for Our Kids Health. And then if you'd like to join our newsletter, there's a QR code there as well, where we share updates as our project unfolds. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy and Dr. Minhas, for sharing that comprehensive presentation. The idea of representation really mattering has been seems like you're taking it up in such a complex and comprehensive way. And I'm very excited to get to the discussion following our next presentation. So our next presentation, we have Dr. Patricia Lingley-Potty from the Strongest Families Institute, and the project is called Steps to Children and Adolescents Learning to Maintain Wellness. The acronym is CALM. It's a validated system of mental health care grounded in more than 20 years of social science research with a particular focus on child, youth, and family-centered mental health care. They're going to describe the scalability of the Strongest Families Institute through leveraging technology advancements, data, skilled people, and research to inform the system of care. And so now I will turn it over to Dr. Patricia Lingley-Potty. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, let's see if I can share my screen. And launch the presentation. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. You're not in presenter view. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, I think, is that good? Great, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today. And before I get started, I just want to make sure I acknowledge that Strongest Families is located in the Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people here in Nova Scotia. So the goals of today will just to give you a really high-level overview, given the interest of time today, of Strongest Families Institute, a bit of a glimpse of all of our validated programs as a system of care, how we've been able to use our validated programs that have been validated in multiple clinical trials, and the kind funding from PHAC to develop a universal system of care using a step care model. And I'll give you a little overview of our results of phase 1 and what we are doing in phase 2. So way back more than 20 odd years ago, when I joined teams with Dr. Pat McGraw to think of new ways to deliver services to combat child and youth mental health wait lists, we had to really think outside the box. Now, this is obviously very much dating me, but really we thought of multiple different ways that we could leverage technology to develop a new system of care that was cost effective, but also data driven. And so Strongest Families Institute was designed based on that. It is now, we are about 20 odd years of social science research grounding in what we do, but we've been a charity for about 10 years. And our research data actually was pretty compelling because the clinical trials that we ran on various different mental health conditions showed that we overcame diagnosable pediatric mental health disorders in about 5 months with weekly coaching using a paraprofessional who's highly trained, highly monitored. And part of the way in which we do that is certainly leveraging technology so that we can look at our data and report on our data at various time points along the way. So this distance system of care that is fully bilingual, French and English, has been embedded in a co-design strategy way at the beginning of time, back in the year 2000. We felt it was really important for us to get the system of care right. So we wanted to use the experiences of our families and children to help us build the system of care. So our traditional system is the weekly coaching, skill-focused cognitive behavioral approach. And our programs would span about 5 months. And that's for very intensive problems. So significant problems that have significant impairment. They don't have to have a diagnosable mental health disorder, because what we wanted to do was catch these problems early on. However, because our programs were so intensive and focused on significant problems with impairment, we were missing a whole subset of the population from a population mental health promotion and prevention focus, which is what I'm going to talk about today when I get to my slides about the PHAC funding. So we are very much client-centered and family-focused. Our coaches are trained to customize the care to meet our families' needs. And we've been successful in scaling our services up. So when we finished our main research and we moved into a nonprofit, we were helping about 700 folks a year with about 20 staff. And now 10 years later, we are helping about 13 families a year with more than 100 staff. Part of that success was because at the beginning, we were very, very focused on an integrated or an embedded knowledge translation strategy. And by doing so, that was one way that we could mobilize our evidence and really increase awareness for various stakeholders. And the way in which, and we do have a publication on this, but some of the tactics that we used it was a multi-pronged approach to mobilize our knowledge. And we did several different types of presentations, whether it was conference or webinars with different communities and key stakeholders. We had conference booths, and we continue to do this to this day, where we are able to really have a lot of our promotional materials available and infographics and that type of thing. We had a very comprehensive, and we still have a very comprehensive marketing strategy, leveraging all the social media type of channels, but also other media outlets and advertisements, et cetera. Obviously, a lot of work on face-to-face meetings with, again, different stakeholders, including government and decision makers, because we really wanted to make sure we were leveraging our data and getting the information out there by saturating the market. Another key to our success is our technology. I've been designing with my team e-health platforms for several years, more than 20 years now. And we have Iris, which is a very innovative system. It's our proprietary information system. It drives everything that we do. It has a client interface. It has a staff interface. It has a very robust report generation system. We've been very careful and thoughtful about the type of data that we collect. We use validated tools pre and post and on an ongoing basis to measure change for our individual clients. We can use the aggregate data to look at different populations to make sure that we're equitable across populations, but also meeting their needs from a quality perspective. From one end of the client journey to the other, there's various different data points that we can report on. There's probably not much that we don't report on now, 20 years into it, but if there's something that we find that we need to add a data point, because IRIS is so generalizable, it's very easy for us to add a data point to make sure that we're capturing everything that will tell our story and our social benefit. We do have a fully integrated app that gives our clients skills on the go. So some of the programs that we deliver, and I'm not going to talk about all of these programs, but this is a snapshot of what we provide from Strongest Families Institute across Canada. So we have a behavior program for 3 to 12-year-olds, an anxiety program from 6, all of the age span. And this is a way in which we are family-centric, because the ICANN Adult Anxiety and Depression Program is a wraparound service so that we can put the oxygen mask on a parent or parents first if they need mental health support before helping their child. Nighttime bedwetting, I know that that's not necessarily under the mental health continuum, but it certainly has a psychological impact on the child and the family. We were very careful in the design of what we do. And although we do have IRIS, we also wanted to make sure that we are bridging the gap, the digital gap. So we do provide written materials, handbooks, and other types of materials to clients if they need them or if they prefer them. Some people prefer both. We poll our adolescents, they want both online app and hard copy materials. They love their handbooks. They've been co-designed with them. So it's a comic material type of style. Similar to the past presentation, we are very focused on having a grade 5 reading level across our skill-based programs. And the idea is that each week, the family will learn a new skill, apply it to their everyday life, so that these are life skills that they can use long after the program's over. One of the other ways that we've been able to build capacity within is we have 2 different modes of coaching, and both are just as equally effective. When I splice the data out and I look at the aggregate data, they're both just as effective. And it's a choice people make. They can have one-on-one coaching with a coach, or they can select a group-based coaching, which was really convenient during COVID because it provided that peer support for folks so that they could hear and share stories that were common between them. And so there's about 10 families in a group and with one coach facilitator. We also modify our age parameters to address any developmental delay or neurodevelopmental disorders so that it's inclusive. It's highly impactful. We report and watch our data consistently. Even our coaches have scorecards so that we can monitor and watch their performance. Our outcome success after our research is still very compelling. We have better than an 85% outcome success rate on not just the presenting issues, mental health issues, but also other collateral impacts like improving academic progress, school attendance, improving or decreasing bullying, and improving the feeling of victimization. And we also monitor and look at parental mental health issues as well as family functioning issues. Our attrition rate is always very low. It's less than 10%, which tells us the majority of our folks do complete our programs. We watch our the demographics of our families, and we know almost 30% of our families who complete our programs have an average income of less than $30,000. So we're really reaching some of those high-risk folks. Our outcomes are pretty standard across all populations. So the PHAC funding has been really, really quite advantageous to us so that we can make sure that we are taking our proven skills and addressing this from a population mental health promotion, prevention, as well as early intervention approach. It's really part of a primary mental health care reform that we were very interested in accomplishing. We actually did do a large clinical trial population-based approach in Finland several years ago that was highly successful for at-risk 4-year-olds. So we knew that this could be a very impactful system of care from a universal perspective if we could expand it. So with the help of the Public Health Agency of Canada funding, phase 1 was really focused. We're going to look at each of our programs, but we want to do it also in a stepped care approach. So our strategy is to take one program at a time and turn it into aligning with a stepped care approach similar to Newfoundland's stepped care model, and they're a very valued partner of ours. So we took the positive parenting program that's already been highly validated, and we're looking at a quality improvement process whereby we really looked at the early years first in phase 1 to make sure this works. So it's an extension of our full program with varying levels of intensity, but one of the keys is our technology. We developed an e-triaging algorithm, so it's a very seamless navigation for clients so they can self-refer, and they will navigate through our e-triaging system based on the score that's calculated by the evaluation of their validated scale. And that will help match the intensity of the program to the intensity of their needs. Again, everything we do is always embedded in co-design, and we have various advisory committees, and we use our data to also inform, so data from our validated tools, from the process data throughout the programs, from our satisfaction data, and that's an iterative process. This is what we do all the time, is use our data to inform everything we do. So this phase 1 positive parenting across the early years is now available across the Atlantic provinces as part of our phase 1 process. The results, again, were extremely strong. We had close to 750 families who we helped in phase 1. Most of them were rural. A good percentage of them were single families. And as you can tell, our outcomes were just as strong. Our primary measure was the strengths and difficulties questionnaire. And as you can see, we really had great success in total caseness, and that is the indicator that suggests if it's at the clinical threshold, it suggests that the child is at a high risk of developing a mental health disorder. And we were able to really significantly reduce that risk across our cohort. Some of the lessons learned, obviously, phase 1 was in the middle of COVID, and we really had to quickly adapt our entire system of care. So you can think about that system that I showed you. We had to really quickly adapt and work with our leaders to adapt our program skills to meet the needs of the COVID impacts that we're having on our family and children and youth mental health. So that was quite an undertaking. And by doing so, we were able to inform our phase 1 work as well, so that our phase 1 parenting program had COVID specific adaptations. And again, very highly successful, as you could see by the time we did analysis. The other thing that we're seeing still currently in phase 2 is the high acuity of the presenting problems. When we look back on our historical data, it's really clear that COVID has certainly exacerbated and caused more mental health problems in our pediatric population. So one of the things that we've been challenged with is, because of the high acuity, we're having a difficult time finding folks who have no behavior problems or mental health issues, and from a prevention focus. And when I show you some of the steps, you'll understand that it is quite difficult for us to really find that population. So we're really focused now in phase 2 with working with schools and daycares and those types of community type of outreach to identify folks so that we can equip them early with these skills to prevent mental health problems. One of the other challenges that we found in our data was there was a lot of folks who just didn't respond to our demographic data. And this is not uncommon, but it's so important for us to get this right, to understand, what populations are accessing our services at what levels, and what's working for what population, so that we can make sure we continue to improve. So we are really working on different ways. Perhaps it's the general mistrust of the system. Perhaps we need to do a little bit more education before the folks are filling out the demographic information. And perhaps we need to embed the demographic information data points throughout the program a little bit more once they gain some trust with their coach. So we're really looking to the clients to help answer those questions for us. So part of phase 2 is advancing our parenting program to all of the ages, from 3 all the way up. So we're looking at the 7 to 12-year-olds and modifying the programs for that cohort using the lived experiences of our parents. We have successfully launched this in the Atlantic provinces. And as we wind down that cohort, what our goal is to do broad dissemination of our entire program across all of our contracts across Canada. The second part of phase 2 is adapting our pediatric anxiety programs. And if you recall on one of the initial slides, we have 2 pediatric programs, one Chase Worries Away, which is for the younger kids, and Defeat Anxiety for our youth. We will be now focused on modifying those programs to align with a stepped care model, and again, co-designing it and using the feedback from our clients as well as the satisfaction data to inform ongoing change. Here's a little glimpse of our stepped care process. So level 1 and level 2 are really taking the 4 prominent or key foundational skills of our proven program and providing it as a self-care option with e-coaching. So we have a lot of different videos and e-coaching components built into that. But we also have learned from phase 1 that people could really use this open-based coaching support for not just minor behavior challenges, but also from a preventative perspective. And so there really was it was really a no-brainer for us to open up our unlimited open group-based coaching support for both self-mediated and those with minor behavior challenges. Now, if the scoring on the algorithm shows that there's mild behavior challenges with some impairment, mild impairment, we're doing a brief version of our proven program, so about 6 of the foundational skills, because our data from our historical data has suggested that children of these ages with mild problems actually do really well with the first 6 foundational skills. So that informed this stepped care model that we have. So that level 3 does include a choice of weekly coaching, because that weekly coach support to acquire and master these skills is the key to client success. So it's weekly coaching one-on-one or weekly coaching by group. And then of course, level 4 is our traditional full weekly coaching for significant problems with significant impairment. But everybody now, because we have this beautiful system of stepped care, it's a universal system, everybody can unlimited access group-based coaching support along the way. And that helps us prevent problems from reoccurring and setback prevention planning. So a quick glance, please refer to our website for a full view of where our programs actually are available across Canada. I won't go through them, but in different provinces and territories, we're completely freely available for all the populations. We have 3 national contracts. Any military and veteran family can access our services for free anywhere in Canada, or if they're outposted in other parts of the world. Our ICANN adult program in a stepped care manner for low intensity solution is available on Wellness Together Canada and other provinces. We have various contracts. So in conclusion, I really hope that you were able to, very quickly from a high level understand how we were able to take a highly validated and highly effective system of care and transform it into a universal mental health promotion, prevention, and intervention system of care. We're really focused on removing barriers to care, but providing self-referral options and, really a continuum, because we know mental health is a continuum. This system of care will provide that support long after any of these programs are done, and people can come back at any time because we know that problems and setbacks can occur. It's a highly validated program. Our data shows that it's highly accepted by all ages as well. And so it really can be a good solution for primary mental health care reform across Canada. I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight some of our funders. And I very much thank you for your time today. I know that was a lot of information, but I hope you understand how we've been able to leverage our data and our people and our research to mobilize our information and increase awareness and inform the importance of this type of application to improve the health and well-being of our families across Canada.
Thank you so much, Dr. Potty. What an excellent presentation. I particularly noted your subtle emphasis on co-design, which I gather is a huge part of the SFI framework. So I'm looking forward to perhaps that coming up more in the discussion, and thank you so much. So we have about 10 minutes for discussion before we get kicked out of our breakout room. Are there any questions? So there's two ways to ask questions during the discussion. You can, great, as Jay just did, you can pop them into the chat window, or you can raise your hand. You can use the hand raise function under reactions, and I'll hopefully get to you. But we have a first question from Jay. For the virtual platform and delivery of service, did your organization enhance your internal system, build your own, or make use of more publicly available platforms? So the speakers are just welcome to unmute yourselves and, you know.
I can go first. This has been a long journey for us. I have two of my colleagues that I can see have joined this presentation too, Brianna and Evan. We've designed our proprietary system, Iris, and that's a whole other presentation that I could hold, because over the 23 years of designing these platforms, we've outsourced and we've brought Iris back in. And what we found is by bringing Iris back into the institutes we own and operate, and innovate her all ourselves. I have a small team of programmers that do it. By doing so, we have full control over how we're innovating Iris. And again, as I said, she's a very versatile system. So we can actually, if a government calls me and says, Trish, are you gathering this type of data? And if I'm not, I can just call somebody who's a non-programmer, who's one of our content configurators, who can easily add those data points or add another validated tool quite seamlessly and easy at a low cost.
Thank you. Does our Kids Health want to take a stab at that one? It's such a good question.
Sure. So maybe so a lot of our work is leveraging the social media platforms that do exist. But so we have been working on a big system in terms of how our adaptation works, and we have in-kind support and mentorship from Meta Health as well. So working with them around some of the strategies on getting out on the Meta-based platform, so Facebook, Instagram, and we're looking at a chatbot as well. So I think those are things that are yet to come, but we've been trying to leverage where spaces are. So in terms of the way our intervention works, in terms of where communities are trying to use those spaces.
Thanks, that's great. We have another question, which is, what does the recruitment process of the participants look like for each program?
I can talk about ours. So in terms of our recruitment process, we posted like a recruitment ad on our social media channels. And then we boosted that, so it shows up as an advertisement kind of outside of our followers. And we targeted those to specific areas and to specific communities. So our project was global. So our participants are kind of all around the world.
Great, and I'm actually going to hand it over to Brianna, the project lead for PHAC, or Evan, if one of them wants to answer that question.
Sure. So for our program, specifically for the Parents Empowering Kids Stepped Care programming, well, I suppose for all of our programs, we do, of course, recruit on our social medias. We have various social media channels that we post on. And we also heavily rely on referrals coming in from various referral sources that we have. And so the recruitment process, once a participant comes through our door, so to say, it's all virtual. They complete a series of questionnaires, like Dr. Potty mentioned. We have a suite of validated tools that they respond to. And especially in our stepped care model, that allows us to help match them to the program that fits their needs. And then from there, they do complete a brief consent, And so it depends on the intensity of the program that they've joined, either an online consent or a phone consent with one of our team members, so we can provide them with all of the information about the program and they make that informed decision to move forward. And then from there, they are matched up with a coach and they go into their weekly sessions.
Thank you, Brianna. We have another question from the chat window. How do families access the programs and support? Do they, I guess you just answered the referral question. So they don't have to be referred, but they can be referred. And is there a cost to participate? I think the answer is no for all.
That's correct. Our service is free, and the funder of the services, whoever provides us with the funding to provide services in the area, really does determine how we receive referrals. So for some of our agencies, that the self-referral is available, so the client themselves can go online and refer themselves without going to a mental health clinic or anything like that. And then for other areas, they do require that referral. So like Dr. Potty said, all of that information is on our website for each specific location and how to get referred. We also have a project space 12. So if you have any specific questions about your area, feel free to pop in that project space and I'm happy to help.
Thank you so much, Brianna. It's great that you are here to field some questions if Dr. Potty is tired of talking. So do we have any more questions from the field? I'm just looking at the chat window. I'm going to go ahead with the question if there are no more questions in the chat window. I noticed, let me see if I can get this question out well. I noticed that in both presentations, you mentioned mistrust as a barrier to care. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit on the idea of working through that mistrust or breaking that mistrust as a mental health promotion intervention in and of itself. I was wondering if anyone could speak to that.
I can hop in first, maybe. So I think that's part of the foundation with Our Kids' Health, is we're really trying to address mistrust, to build trust and rapport with communities that have historical marginalization, and using trusted messengers who represent the community, both to deliver the content, but also to help co-design it as well. So I think part of that trust and rapport comes from the idea that we're really trying to follow the priorities of each of these communities. And we're seeing that with the questions that we're getting now a couple of months into our rollout. So the questions we're getting from families of Ukrainian origin are maybe different in some ways in terms of what's going on in their mental health sort of experiences right now compared to families who identify with the Black community. And so I think kind of trying to honor that is where we're starting.
Thank you. Just so you know, we have 1 minute left, so everyone, we might get cut off while Dr. Potty is speaking, but go.
That's right. Similar experiences at Strongest Families, and really, it's the coaches when a client gains the trust of the coach, that's when they start opening up about their feelings of mistrust. But also, I make a very strong point of going to different communities, our marginalized communities, often throughout the year. So in May, I'll be heading to northern Saskatchewan to different areas like Isle of the Cross. And that's where we really hear from the communities, their experiences of mistrust, and that helps us inform what we do so that we can lower those barriers for them, so they see themselves in our materials, but they can hopefully trust our system, and hopefully that will gain more trust as they navigate other healthcare systems.
Great answer in 1 minute. So much to talk about there. I want to thank everyone for their contributions to the session and for your attention. And we'll look forward to seeing you again in 30 seconds. Well, I guess 24 seconds.
Thanks, everyone.